Hey there, freaks and sickos. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Clark Macbeth, on the YouTube channel, Clark Macbeth, and I'm looking into changing the name of the podcast to Inside Evil with Clark Macbeth. This is part of a long campaign that will be the rest of my life. I have a lot of that mapped out in advance. So, this is Jello. He's going to be an annoying little shithead in a lot of my videos. So, if this is recommended in your feed, then you probably like movie reviews, right? And, okay, I can do that. I can do a one-off on YouTube. That's fine. That should be acceptable. I can see how much that branches out. But what most people know about me is a few things. I'm autistic and I'm a Minnesotan, and I am also a furry. I attempted to run a campaign for city council, and that did not work out the way it was intended, but I'm gonna see what I can do for my state going forward anyway. So, let's circle back to the I am autistic. And that's why I am reviewing the movie The Accountant. So, there's a few different ways I can approach this. I can try and use my normal Minnesota voice, but this is my low volume speaking voice that I use at a short distance. But I'm kind of talking into a camera. I have like an active and a passive voice. I've lived in a bunch of places my whole life, but I've always wanted to live in Minnesota. So that's why I live here. And you'll see what masking is all about. Normally, it is my boring-ass Minnesota voice, but I have some incredible range as part of a stimming exercise, which is it's really nice to be able to do overlapping things in life and see what you can do. That is just living. That is the human experience. The Accountant is a movie that I saw in 2016. I kind of was into some indie films at the time, and there were some really good ones. What was it called? Bad Words. Bad Words. Kind of relevant to this YouTube video because I had to wait a certain amount of time before I said the first swear word. This is my transatlantic accent, and I can get away with this. FDR, John F. Kennedy ass sounding shit, because I lived in Savannah, Georgia, y'all. It's like the regular Southern accent, but it ain't as fast. There's some of the parts of the South, like Texas, where they speak at a normal pace of voice. But Savannah has more of a draw, so it's going to be more like a low tone of voice, which is how mine turned out like that. My conscious memory did not stop in Texas like my brother. It's so complicated, but in The Accountant, you don't really get a fake autist. It's just a normal guy. It's just a normal guy. And he is his authentic self the entire movie, and he does that in a good way. That is why The Accountant is such a great movie. And that's why I'm gonna sound like some film reel ass nerd for the rest of this recording. This autistic man is in a very dark, grey situation. His mother left him his father was abusive and he got revenge on both of his parents for his entire life in a couple of ways. And the movie is very layered, like all good movies should be. Layered with the symbolism, layered with a takeaway, something to think about, even a moral dilemma, kind of like The Dark Knight did with the two ships, kind of Matrix, red pill, blue pill kind of situation. That's how deep this film, with an autistic protagonist, mind you, is. It is one of the greatest films of all time, and one of the most original in the past 20 years, and probably the greatest with an autistic protagonist. And I understand the actor is Ben Affleck, and he was the guy who later played Batman. It's easy to see that there is a fan theory that maybe the film theory YouTube channel should look into. I'm a fan of the Accountant movie, and I do think Ben Affleck was a very good Batman, a very underutilized asset. I think he should be acting in more Batman movies, but he has a monotone. This is like the opposite of a monotone because I'm putting active effort into this masking. I can have a really wide range of voice, especially as a stimming exercise. I could have a very good potential as a performer, as a comedian, probably along the lines of Gabriel Iglesias, but white and nerdy. And that is the beauty of the transatlantic accent. Most of Europe that is learning English will understand it, whether you're German or British or American. But this monotone-ass man does not pretend. He uses his normal voice, and it could have a drag Minnesota kind of drawl, and it could have some changing of the normal use of words. And like I remember telling a coworker the other day, I don't really use the scooter if it is 2 or 3 degrees, more like 5 or 6, and I think he knew I was talking about Celsius at the time, and yeah, I then clarified with Celsius. I am a goddamn polymath, and I can relate to the main character, who is still a very vulnerable man with a very horrific past and traumatic childhood that was completely optional, and the whole movie was screaming that to your face. But still, you gotta ask, is it moral or immoral to pick up the phone and listen to this fake generated text-to-speech engine over the phone for this dude? Can we trust this? And the movie is the setup for a franchise, and at the time of you seeing this video, I'm sure you're aware, and I'm going to hint that in the thumbnail of this, that this is a franchise. And how does someone in Maple Grove, Minnesota feel about The Accountant becoming a franchise? I think it is well earned. To be honest, I think the first movie was very underrated. I think that Ben Affleck is well within his right to portray this character because he did it so accurately. The fact remains, you can have autistic characters, and you might just leave people with a stereotype in the Power Rangers movie, and that would be bad representation. But if you're like The Accountant, you have somebody who is his authentic autistic self throughout the entire movie. And he's involved in this multi-layered plot involving the federal government, the Treasury Agency. This shit ages like wine. Yeah, you always act like you're hungry. You're some kind of male diva cat. And it has some very harsh truths in it as well. This doesn't look like the kind of film Autism Speaks would make or endorse, which might have weighed on the critics' ratings initially. And there are some hanging chads. There are some hints that this would be an entire franchise. And the second one almost didn't get made, but then it did. Amazon MGM picked it up. This will be technically a DEI film series, but they're contractually obligated to do Accountant, Accountant 2, and Accountant 3, no matter what. And I see that as a good thing for the film industry and society. Will we get to a point where we will have more genuinely autistic people in roles on the screen? It's kind of happening already. By the way, Phantom Strider, I know you're Australian. Have you ever been to Holiday Valley in Ellicottville, New York? We might have shared a ski lift one time. I remember a very shy Australian dude there. Please reach out. I'm gonna subscribe to your Patreon regardless. I have not seen the second film. If I did, the runtime would have implied that already, but The Accountant just has so much shit in it, man. So much multi-layered, well, honestly, the opposite of shit, to be honest. You're a little shit, though, dum-dum. Yeah, the transatlantic accent even has some tolerable amount of use of the southern accent. I think, Gone with the Wind did that. But you'll notice my voice is loud and clear, because you can hear it more easily. It is an emphatic voice, and there's also the news anchor voice. You know, the news, I'm Chet You Betcha, you know, that kind of thing where a cat is terrorizing the home by being a loud, annoying shit well before his proper feeding time. And now we have Dave with the weather. That sort of thing. The Accountant is a movie. I consider it one of the best films of all time, and I know that when it comes to autistic representation in the media, there is a lot of room for improvement, but this is the best we have so far. And for like way too many decades, the only representation of autism in the media was Rain Man. And that is a very disturbing movie where you wonder, who is the more disturbed, sick menace in the situation? It's kind of like Spindle Horse, Hellaverse kind of cartoon, but as a real-world movie on the surface, but everyone is awful, and it's made even worse because they're not really cartoons. They're too stilted for that kind of. Rain Man was a disturbing movie, and that's all people had for way too many decades, and then The Accountant comes along and says, oh yeah, there's some benefits to these people in society, even when they're clearly misbehaving. You gotta ask some very deep questions. I mean, the answers are clear if they're Elon Musk and Donald Trump. They are using autism the opposite of how it should, and must be destroyed by persons like myself. So that's why I think maybe I would consider another run for public office. And tell them, though, I gotta clean up a bit with my act. Please go see The Accountant. I really love it as a film, as a franchise. I also want to say, is it called Salvation? it's another film that has basically the same financial structure and evades Hollywood accounting and lets the creators dig in a little more on all the revenue that the film could possibly make, and not just the ticket sales, and not just a rug pull. No, they have guaranteed no rug pull contracts. The accountant and Salvation do similar things for the good of America. And that's why they're good movies. And that's why I consider myself a patriot and a great Minnesotan. Yeah, I think The Accountant is a good movie. It's one of those films that should be regularly shown in schools. And maybe The Accountant 2 and 3, depending on how much downtime these schools really have, it's still very high educational and cultural value. Probably more so than Gone with the Wind. But if you are able to stick this out to the very end, you are very much not Gone with the Wind. I thank you very much for watching, and as always, subscribe if you like, and share if you care. Wow, that was wacky.